The Navy is now confirming to NBC News that, in fact, on Sunday, when that sub went in the water, and as you know, they lost communication an hour and 45 minutes down, the Navy says at about that same time, it detected through its underwater acoustic listening devices sounds consistent with an implosion or an explosion. That would suggest, in fact, that this implosion, if in fact it was an implosion of the hull all at once, it happened within the first few hours, in fact, the first hour and a half or hour and 45 minutes of the descent.
So of course, that's one of the most important developments since yesterday, when it was effectively confirmed that all aboard the submersible had been lost. And for some, this is, I don't know, it's just enough information for them to think like, oh God, what did the Navy do the right thing in not revealing this, maintaining hope for friends and family? There's those sorts of concerns because they apparently did make the rescuers aware of this, and of course the rescue continued. Understand that them detecting that sound is not confirmation necessarily of what had happened. The ocean is very large, it's full of a lot of different sounds. Remember that just a couple of days ago, it was believed that people had heard from some planes during the rescue effort had heard knocking inside of what could have been the submersible. That turned out not to be true. For others, the fact that the Navy had heard that and not said anything has generated any number of different conspiracy theories, and perhaps we will talk about that. But first, we should talk about the fact that they did obviously decide to continue the search and rescue effort. Particularly because detecting that sound is not definitive of exactly where it happened. So even if you only expected to receive confirmation and not actually save anyone, you would still have to do that search, even if you believed that the sound that had been detected was the catastrophic implosion in the submersible. It was eventually found roughly 1,600 feet from the bow of the Titanic wreckage. So a very large area had been searched. They actually were quite close to the Titanic. It is believed potentially that the implosion happened before it was able to actually make it to the Titanic. They found the landing frame and a rear cover. You can actually see right here a schematic of the submersible and some of the parts that were actually found. So we're gonna have some responses to this. Obviously, a lot of people are still coming to grips with the fact that this did fail. This tragedy that it was believed to be is exactly what we thought it would be. All aboard were lost. What do y'all make of it?
I'm with James Cameron, so we're gonna get to him in a second. But I thought some of this stuff was, I mean, sorry, but I thought it was kind of obvious. Like I said to our production team the very first day that it broke, I think they were all gone. And I said that based on two things failing at once. They lost, I think, navigation and communications. That means the sub is, look, some submersibles and submarines, they go under the water, their number one problem is pressure, right? And when something goes wrong with pressure, it doesn't go a little wrong, it usually goes all the way wrong, right? So I never thought that there was any prayer, and to me, one of the main questions is, why did people keep up this ruse? And there's one particular part here that I agree, again, 100% with James Cameron on. They go, well, why didn't we do that? So we'll get to that in a minute, but Sharon, what do you think?
I mean, I don't know, everything you said makes sense. I'm an educated gal, but I was waiting and begging for the Hollywood ending here, and I didn't consider all the obvious things. I just bought in like everybody else, and was just thinking about that Russian submersible, that sub all those years ago, and what they might find, what they might be able to do here, not considering just how different this is, and that didn't work out either. But I don't know, it just feels to me, Cenk, that it's like everyone's trying to be front and center on this one. Everyone has something to say. Everyone wants to be, heard on the story. Everyone's an expert. I feel that way about James Cameron, but he really is an expert because he did do all those dives, 30 plus of them. But I don't know, I felt like this was a script that could have had a Hollywood ending, even though it didn't make sense. I get why people were so invested in it.
Yeah, I'll say two quick things about that. One is, look, part of the reason, and the production team almost tackled me on it, is that you don't say they're goners, is because you don't know and you don't wanna, destroy people's hopes and be the bad guy who says, oh yeah, they're gone before you know for sure, right? So I get it, that's why we were all rooting. We're all rooting for maybe, right? And James Cameron is exactly the kind of guy who would be full of crap normally. But in this case, he really does have expertise and he is making sense.
Yeah.
So why don't we actually go to that?
Yeah, let's do it.
I was out on a ship myself on Sunday. I didn't hear about it until I woke up Monday morning. I immediately got on the phone to some of my other contacts in the deep submersible community. Within about an hour, I had the following facts. They were on descent. They were at 3,500 meters, heading for the bottom at 3,800 meters. Comms were lost and navigation was lost. And I said instantly, you can't lose comms and navigation together without an extreme catastrophic event, a highly energetic catastrophic event. And the first thing that popped to mind was an implosion. So I felt in my bones what had happened.
So you can tell from that video, he seemed pretty sure. But continuing on, you made a reference to his thoughts about what should have been done. Let's continue with him.
So this entire week has just felt like a prolonged nightmarish charade where people are running around talking about banging noises and talking about oxygen and all this other stuff, and their Coast Guard is out with airplanes. I knew that sub was sitting exactly underneath its last known depth and position. That's exactly where they found it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, even if the Navy thought that doesn't mean that they can immediately search that exact area. There are very few actual submersibles that can reach that depth. That's sort of the problem here. But I know that's what you wanted to talk about. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so look, I already talked about two things going wrong. One, he fills in a lot of details because of course, I'm not in the submersible community, right? And he has gone down to look at the Titanic site 30, 40 times, James Cameron has. So he knows all about this. He is a subject matter expert. And so he knows the details like, hey, it's more likely to be an implosion, etc. right? Like to me, if you told me implosion, explosion, I don't know. But I know if two things go wrong at once, you're in a lot of trouble in a submersible. Okay, so now the second part of it is, I was like, look, I didn't say this to anyone because I assumed that they had done this because I think it's so obvious. The first place you look, and a lot of times, almost the only place, but okay, fine, you wanna look beyond it, sure. But the first, second, and eighth place you should look is right underneath where you lost the signal. Because likely something went catastrophically wrong and it's at the bottom of the ocean. Did they not look there? Where were we looking for?
I mean, I don't believe that they had the direct capacity to do that. They did not have something that could actually go right there and look there.
But apparently we have some capacity because we found it.
Yeah, no, eventually they did. I mean, one of the things in the early days of this being a news story that was talked about a lot was, we believe they have X hours of oxygen, but the issue is, even if we knew exactly where they were, we cannot actually get them right now. That was one of the concerns. It took time for an actual thing that could go down there to be brought to the area. That's my understanding anyway.
Okay, but looking around.
I've only been to the Titanic like 10 times, so I'm not the expert that some of these people are.
Looking around in like Norway and Taiwan isn't gonna help you. It is very, 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 very likely in the area where you last lost communication. So I feel like the rest of it was an enormous waste of time.
I feel like this whole thing, and I'm probably wrong, and it's probably disrespectful to say it, but everything was feeding the other monster. Even the people who were giving the updates, part of the investigative team, the whole world was invested in this. This was the ground zero. Everyone's attention was on it. And so, yeah, I'm not suggesting that they necessarily lied, but why not keep this thing going and show what we know? And the thing that kind of ticks me off about James Cameron is I don't believe that he's upset that the charade and the wool was pulled over people's eyes, getting their hopes up. I think he uses this to show how much he knows. He's an insider. I was talking to people in my community, the deep sea community and this and that, and I had these facts confirmed. He's an investigative journalist. It's just something about it that rubs me the wrong way, and that's why I just can't get over the fact that everyone just seems to want to be cemented and ingrained in this story.
Yeah, I hear you. That's why I said instinctually, you think James Cameron's the kind of guy who's gonna be full of crap, right? Because he has this enormously arrogant attitude about him, right? And but having said that, sometimes somebody can be arrogant and be right at the same time, right? And he was enormously arrogant about the movie Titanic, and it turned out he was right. and he was incredibly arrogant about Avatar, and it turned out he was right. So in this case, he proved to be right again, whether we like it or not.
Yeah. By the way, I just want to quickly update you on some of the past comments that had been made about safety by the CEO, who was, of course, lost in the disaster on the submersible, Stockton Rush. Apparently had been speaking with filmmaker and deep sea explorer Rob McCullum. And McCullum had told him to put on hold the trips that he was going on until an independent agency had been able to certify, basically, that the submersible was safe. Rush responded that he was, quote, tired of industry players who try to use a safety argument to stop innovation.
Oops.
We have heard the baseless cries of "you are going to kill someone" way too often. I take this as a serious personal insult.
Oops.
And of course, Stockton Rush was lost, as well as 4 others, including, as you know, has come out in the last day, the 19-year-old Suleiman Dawood that you see in the middle of that, who apparently had not wanted to go on this trip and only did because it was happening over Father's Day and his father really wanted him to go. So, look, so at the same time, I totally understand why some people are angry that this is a big story. I totally get that. I mean, 5 people have died, but 5 people have died in one of the mass shootings that have happened somewhere in America today. And the money that was spent on the search rescue probably could have saved many, many lives in a number of other ways. And I understand that some of the media probably, like, CNN always wants something with a plane or a boat or whatever. They're always something with a vehicle. But for regular people, like some of the personal stuff of this, as well as just how unique of a story it is, I understand why it draws them in. The idea that what if we could save people in this extreme situation? Wouldn't that be a testament to what we are capable of as a species? So I get both sides of it, the frustration as well as the interest that a lot of people genuinely have.
100%. So part of the frustration is the media loves dude, where's my car kind of stories. Like, hey, where's the plane? Where's the submarine? Because it's like a big mystery and it sucks people in. But the other side of it is the media loves it because real people like it. And like Sharon said earlier, it's kind of like a movie, but in our real lives. And maybe that sucks and maybe we shouldn't operate that way, but we kind of do, and let's be honest about it. And did we all get sucked into the sub story? Yeah, we did, okay? So we just have to be honest about everything that's happening around it, which doesn't happen often. And then finally, look, I'm gonna throw a bomb out here. And it's important how I phrase this. I'm glad Stockton Rush was on it instead of someone else. Like if it was someone else piloting it and there was gonna be 5 dead people anyway, I would rather have it be Stockton Rush than someone else, okay? Because it was his fault. It was his dumb idea not to be more safe, to ignore the regulations. We showed you a clip, I think yesterday, where he's kind of bragging about how he did it off the shelf and he did it in a way that other people didn't agree with. Yeah, you want to be an innovator in like physics and you're sitting at your desk and you're coming up with a different formula. Have at it, Hoss. You want to be an innovator with like, safety doesn't mean anything, man. I just took a bunch of chances because I'm a daredevil innovator. Well, then I'm glad it was you and not someone else. I said it.
Yeah, I mean, I get exactly where you're coming from. And the other part is this. Well, number one, the media loves rich people, okay? The media loves stories about rich people and rich people coming on to talk about rich people. But I think you're right about Stockton because the ego was grand there. Probably a brilliant guy. But once the ego gets out of sorts, it doesn't matter how brilliant you are, you're gonna get checked. Because you're gonna overtake the facts and the science and believe that you have all the answers. And in the end, it's a tragedy. And I also understand why it is of interest to so many people. But I think the other part and the anger comes in, not because they don't want people to cover this story, the media, but because of the ignoring of other big stories, or you would think they would meet that threshold of being a big story, so.
Yeah.
But we'll see the movie about it. James Cameron's already probably purchased the rights.
Maybe he is an expert.
That would be very ironic, yes.
Yeah. And I agree, you previously said that the media loves rich people. They also love innovators until the innovators get people killed. I mean, there had been like a tenuous link to this story with Starlink and Elon Musk. But I honestly think if you're gonna connect those two things, the fact that the boat had Starlink is not a particularly interesting link. The fact that Elon Musk also pushed experimental technology and encouraged people to use it and oversold its capabilities, and there's a massive scandal over the people that died as a result of that technology, that seems like maybe a stronger link thematically to this story, and a lot more people than 5 have died thanks to some of those technologies. But
you're forcing me to say one last thing, John. No, I gotta correct you. The media does not love innovators. The media loves innovators who are incredibly wealthy. Okay,
sure.
So like the actual innovator in Tesla was the engineer who came up with the car. What's his name? I don't even know.
That's a good point.
Okay, so, and if you're an innovator in politics like Bernie Sanders, the media despises you, right? So you've got to be an innovator plus already incredibly wealthy. Then they'll be like, oh, what a brilliant innovator, whether you actually are or aren't.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.